Shivamurthy Murugha Sharanaru, a Lingayat seer who heads a prominent Lingayat mutt in the Chitradurga district of Karnataka, was in the news recently. He had given the Ishtalinga Diksha or initiation to Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, who had come calling. Not just Rahul Gandhi, a lot of politicians queue up to meet this seer. This includes Home Minister Amit Shah, current Chief Minister of Karnataka Basavaraja Bommai, and former Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa. The seer is in the news once again. This after two minor girls, one 15-year-old and one 16-year-old, who lived and studied in the ashram's residential school, came out and alleged that the seer had been sexually assaulting them for years. An FIR has been filed on the basis of their complaint. Karnataka has been seeing a lot of drama in the past few days. Allegations, counter-allegations, and unsurprisingly, a number of politicians coming out in support of the seer. I am Dhanya Rajendran, and this week I will tell you about the accusations against the seer, the counter-accusations, and why it matters politically. Before I plunge into the story, I just want to remind you all that we at the News Minute are a small team of journalists, and for many years now we have been telling you important stories from South India. If you want independent media like ours to survive, sustain, and grow further, do become a member of the News Minute. The links are below. Now on to the story. On August 26th, a person who was in touch with the two girls called up Ordinary Seva Samaste, an NGO based out of Mysuru. The girls were in Bengaluru at that point and they were brought to Mysuru. The girls told the NGO's counsellors that the seer had been sexually assaulting one of them for 3.5 years and another one for almost 2 years. Now what the NGO says is that the girls have alleged that it's not just them, but many other girls had been sexually abused. It seems there was a corridor leading up to the seer's room and there were no CCTV cameras in that corridor. According to the girls, the seer used to make them perform all kinds of duties, including watering plants or even scrubbing his back. When he used to sexually assault them, he apparently told them that he was just playing a game with them. The NGO then took the children to the Child Welfare Commission. Councillors at CWC recorded their statements, and because there was a case prima facie, they were immediately taken to the police and a complaint was filed. An FIR was registered on the same day. Since the alleged crime took place in Chitradurga, the children were then shifted to a home run by the CWC in Chitradurga. The seer side has completely rejected all these allegations. They are instead pointing fingers at this man, S.K. Basavarajan, a former JDS MLA who used to work in the mutt for many years. He in fact resigned as the administrator in 2007 and came back later in March 2022. The ashram says that Basavarajan had scores to settle with the seer and therefore he propped up these two girls with false allegations. 2 days after an FIR was filed against the seer under many sections of POCSO and IPC sections for rape, a counter-complaint was registered against Basavarajan by the hostel warden. The hostel warden made 2 allegations. One is that the girls left the hostel in the last week of July and they went to the Cottonpet police station in Bengaluru. From here, Basavarajan and his wife picked up the girls, took them to their house. A month later, the girls approached the NGO in Mysuru. The hostel warden is asking what happened to these girls from July to August. The second allegation made by the warden is that when she questioned Basavarajan about this, he came to the hostel and sexually abused her. So essentially, there are 2 cases. The lawyers representing the seer have been all over television, making many allegations and claims. There are a few questions that they have raised. One is that where were the girls for almost 3 weeks and who was sheltering them? The second question they are asking is why have details of the sexual assault not been given in the FIR? I heard one lawyer actually telling on TV that sexual assault can mean different things for different people. For someone, it could be a sexually loaded word. For another person, it could be sexual abuse or hugging without permission. So the lawyer is asking what kind of sexual assault actually took place. The third point they're making, or rather the generalization that they're making, is that such an allegation is not one just against the seer, but it is against the entire Lingayat community. The seer has had top politicians, other seers, lawyers, and his devotees supporting him and speaking on his behalf. But what the 2 girls want to say largely remains unknown. Ordinary Seva Samaste says there is someone connected with the girls who has a CD with evidence against the seer, but they will not hand it over to the police. They also say that details of the assault were not given in the complaint to the police as they do not trust the police or the government. So why does the Samasthe and other child rights activists not trust the police or the government? There are many reasons for it. After the children were shifted to Chitradurga, ordinary Samasthe's counsellor was not even allowed access to meet them. It was only after media exerted pressure that the children were allowed to see this counsellor. The second reason is that the children were not produced before a magistrate to record their statement under section 164 of the CRPC. In fact, Ordinary Seva Samasthe kept asking, why are you not allowing a magistrate to record the statement? Is there pressure on the girls to change their statements? Finally, on August 30th, the girls were produced before a magistrate. I've been told that it took them 5 hours to describe their ordeal to 2 magistrates, one retired and one current magistrate. This NGO and many others point out that even the Home Minister of the state has been supporting the Seer. In fact, the Home Minister, when asked about the FIR against the Seer, said that this seems to be some internal tiff in the ashram. So the question being raised is, when the Home Minister, under whom the police force comes, is indirectly supporting the Seer, then why should evidence be handed over to the police? Why can't there be a judicial probe? The FIR against the Seer and others was lodged on August 26th, but he was not arrested. There are many court judgments which say that a child victim's deposition is enough to convict a person accused under a POCSO charge. Forget conviction, here the Seer was not questioned or even arrested. In fact, there is a recent Madras High Court judgment on the same. After the FIR was lodged, the Seer has spoken to the media twice at least. It's very clear from all this that the state was waiting for the Seer to file for an anticipatory bail. So even as the police drags its feet over the issue, politicians have been lining up to support the Seer. The first in the block was former Chief Minister B.S. Yedurappa, who categorically said that this complaint is false. Local BJP MLA Timmappa, Minister Umesh Katti, all have supported the Seer directly and indirectly. Chief Minister Basavaraja Bommai has been pragmatic. He said that the investigation will take its due course and justice will be served. So why are politicians treading so carefully when it comes to this issue? That's because the Lingayat vote is precious to them. Lingayats constitute almost 17% of population in Karnataka, and they are a very powerful community. Like I said, Rahul Gandhi visited this year. A few days later, B.S. Yedurappa, a Lingayat leader, was inducted into the BJP's most powerful decision-making body. So the Lingayat vote matters, and none of the politicians want to hurt the sentiments of this community, especially as elections are to be held in a few months from now. All I can say for now is that this is not the first time that a powerful Seer in Karnataka has been accused of rape. We had seen Raghaveshwara Bharati, another Seer, facing 2 rape charges. He was acquitted in these cases, but it's an interesting story. At least 10 judges of the Karnataka High Court had refused or recused from hearing these cases. My colleague Sayukta had done a very detailed story on this, and you can read it from the link below. So thank you for joining the show. Next week I'll be back discussing another important story from South India, and don't forget, become a member of the News Minute.